A few years ago, it was the analytics craze. More numbers, more data, more information. And as teams built out their own departments and Pro Football Focus took over, the future of scouting started to appear. No, we are not now at Skynet, but the new frontier is artificial intelligence, player tracking, and objective decision making. I am definitely not qualified to talk about these things, so we brought you someone who is. Hayden Schuh, football account executive at Skillcorner, is here today to join us, along with being a sponsor of the 2025 Inside the League Combine Seminar. Hayden and Skillcorner are changing the way teams approach film, data, AI, and so much more. A fascinating conversation that at the end of the day all comes back to helping teams find Jimmys and Joes. All that and more today on Scouting the League. Everybody, and welcome to Scouting the League, a look back at the CFL last week, along with updates from the hiring and firing cycle in NFL front offices. Plenty of good scouts getting promoted, but a lot of good scouts also out there looking for new jobs as well. Can be both tough and a time to celebrate. It is the reality of the NFL, and we, more specifically, Neil, is here to bring you all of those updates. He is a must-follow over at Inside the League on X if you want to know exactly where every team stands with their front office changes. Before we jump in with Hayden, though, make sure you head over, like, subscribe, and share this wherever you are listening and watching. Give us a 5-star review. Most importantly, share with a friend. We love the comments, love to hear from you personally. Let us know where we should head next and what you want us to dig deeper on. I've already given him a shout out, but he can always use more. Co-host, the man that is keeping all the front offices up to date, Neil Stratton at Inside the League on X, InsideTheLeague.com. SucceedInFootball.com is his blog. Also, make sure you get signed up for his Friday Wrap. That Friday Wrap will bring you all the news and notes you need from the week of football. You can sign up for that. Just head over to his Twitter page to find the link for that. I am Rodrik David at RightStepADV is where you can find me on X. RSAFootball.com is my website. Before we get to anything else, thescoutingcommunity.com is also a spot for scouts and aspiring scouts to head. Whether you are a current NFL scout that wants to know the full detailed lay of the NFL when it comes to salaries, per diems, allowances, and contracts, whether you are seeking additional development on either the evaluation side or as you progress in your career, we have mentors, financial planners, insurance specialists, and more. Go sign up today. NFL Scouts, just $90 for a full year. Take advantage of everything the scouting community has to offer. If you're an aspiring scout, we also have a spot for you. Networking, learning the NFL landscape, mentorship, and so much more. TheScoutingCommunity.com has the spot for aspiring scouts as well. Just $20 a month for you, whether you are a scout or aspiring scout. TheScoutingCommunity.com is where you need to head. And to today's guest, Hayden Schuh, account executive at Skillcorner. He is a former college safety that transitioned into coaching before getting on with Skillcorner, a 2025 sponsor of the Inside the League seminar at the NFL Combine. Well, Hayden, welcome back to Scouting the League.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to see you guys again.
We don't have a lot of guests, Hayden, so you're pretty much part of the rotation at this point.
Yep. Had you back on in February prior to the Combine. Again, one of the great sponsors for Neil's Inside the League event. We didn't get a full episode. I think we probably went 10 or 15 minutes. It's perfect time, off season. This is the time. I'd imagine you're having some conversations with teams. Probably not allowed to tell us about those. We may ask you and just see what happens. But again, talking about Skillcorner, talking about what you're doing, talking about what's next with Skillcorner, player evaluation, how it's going to all get integrated into front offices. But before we even get there, talk us through your football journey. You've got two competing helmets behind you. Talk about that playing journey and, again, how you got to Skillcorner.
Yeah, those helmets used to be in the same conference, not anymore, huh? But football's been the heartbeat and rhythm of my life for as long as I can remember. Growing up, Pacific Northwest kid, so Vancouver, Washington's where I grew up. Played all throughout high school and everything, and then was fortunate enough to walk on at the University of Washington. Oddly enough, walked on three different times. Had kind of a preferred walk on out of high school to be a kicker. All state soccer player as well, so multi sport. And then unfortunately didn't make the first fall camp. Walked on again the following spring, again as a kicker. Did not made it through spring ball, went all the way to fall camp. They had to trim the roster down. Got cut again, and then the following, what would that be, winter, Coach Sark leaves and Coach Peterson comes in, and I thought let's give this another go, another coach, and I decided I don't want to kick anymore. I want to actually play on the field, and so I was fortunate they had a walk-on tryout that February, and was fortunate enough that Jamie Lake and Coach Peterson gave me an opportunity, and then played 3 years for those guys up there in Seattle. So, yeah, really enjoyed my time there. Trying to figure out what I was going to do as like many people kind of in football and in college, right? And I didn't want to give it up. Didn't really have a shot at going to the league, and you playing behind guys like Taylor Rapp and Buda Baker and Kevin King, Sidney Jones, a ton of different guys. Marcus Peters, even back in the day, is like, okay, probably I can be a core four special teams guy, but not actually playing in the backfield. But still wanted to pursue my love for the game, so I decided to go down to Cal. Was a grad assistant down there, got my master's, and was with Gerald Alexander, the DB coach, and Tim DeRuiter, our DC, and Coach Justin Wilcox there, as well as the head coach, and loved my time there. Just a fantastic learning experience to see the other side of the game, right? You've seen it through the coach's lens, and had a great journey there, and then went out to Montana State for a few years, was a director of player personnel out there, as well as the outside linebackers coach, helping out with special teams. The head coach there was Jeff Choate at the time, and he was the ST coordinator at Washington when I was playing there. So, yeah, really good connections. But in a roundabout way, that was kind of the playing coaching side. COVID hit, canceled our season there at Montana State. Unfortunately, got let go, and then decided to transition into the sports tech space, more the analytical side of football. Still being able to work with teams as well, and so that kind of led me right to Skillcorner and what they were doing with helping teams scout for better players and better talent.
Hayden, that's a unique playing journey. We will overlook the fact that you left college football, and within 10 years, the Pac-12 was gone. So I don't know if you were like the brick that came out that kind of folded everything up. But in high school, Hayden, were you a DB as well as a kicker, or did you decide, hey, I'm just going to try something completely new and try to be a DB in college? And what was
no, played it all really in high school, safety to linebacker, to kicking, slot receiver, tight end, wherever they would have me. We were in the top conference, if you will, for 4A in the state of Washington. So, yeah, in a lot of ways, it was like it didn't come off the field a lot. Yeah. So a lot of good memories there at Skyview.
So why'd you choose kicker to try out at?
Coming out of high school, recruiting just was not the same in 2012 as it is here in 2025. Vancouver was not a hotbed. You had Portland right there. Had some potentials to go to some D3 schools, Linfield and others, but really for myself wanted to go to a bigger school as a student. Thought my best opportunity to get on a team was as a kicker, and so that was the route that I chose. And I'm a bit sick. I love contact and I love car crashes all the time. I was like, dude, I just want to hit somebody again, and so that's what turned the page for me.
Now you went in as a core four. At that point, were the kickers that were left over from when you were trying out, did they see you as a traitor, as you weren't the guy, the leg guy anymore?
No, I don't think so. Actually, you know what? I've never asked them. We can get them on the horn and maybe ask them ourselves. But no, That's actually a funny question. They'd still let me every now and again, like in fall camp, we would have a end of practice. Everybody does it, right? Some sort of competition for, are we going to do conditioning? Are we going to run gassers? And every now and again, Coach P would have me kick a field goal from 40 yards out, and if I made it, we wouldn't have to do conditioning. And I still remember one time drilling a 40-yarder right down the middle, and everybody just sent it to the locker room. It was like, yep, we're not conditioning today, fellas.
It's the question that scouts ask all the time to specialists, kickers, punters, is, are you a specialist that is a specialist, or are you a football player that just happens to be a specialist? And you are a specialist as a football player, and the writing, the proof is literally in the pudding for you, because you said, hey, no, forget this, we're going to answer the question straight away. I'm going to go join that DB room. So again, it's a unique perspective, and I could imagine you probably have a little fun thinking about maybe a fake or two you could get in there as a having a safety, a drop kick perhaps somewhere down the line. The hindsight, the things we could have done in our playing days. But so you get to Skill Corner. Let's talk about Skill Corner.
Yep.
What is Skill Corner for those that are out there that haven't Googled it already, that aren't familiar with it? What is Skill Corner? Give us a little, history of the company and kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, and I guess like very high level layman's terms, Skill Corner is a data company that utilizes artificial intelligence to provide tracking data on players within games. And we're currently working with 3 different sports: soccer, or the real football, as they're keen to tell me. Company's based in Paris, I should mention that. So 10 years ago got started in Paris and in Europe, but working in soccer and football and in basketball at this time right now. So yeah, that's high level.
So when you talk, so let's bring it in. Soccer was, again, starting in Paris. Soccer was the first sport they were in, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's right. So initially got to start with working with soccer clubs. So all of your top 5 leagues in Europe. You've got Premier League, you've got Series A, La Liga, French League One, and gosh, there's a 5th one. They're probably going to shoot me when they see this, because they're like, how can you not remember it? But anyways, they're all recruiting talent from other leagues, other top leagues, and then they're also recruiting talent around the world. So Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Uruguay, Sweden, Japan. There's players coming globally, and they had data on their own leagues, these teams within the leagues, but what they didn't have was data on players that they were recruiting and scouting all around the world. And so that was the problem that Skill Corner aimed to solve, was how can we provide data that allows teams to benchmark their current roster of players versus guys that they're scouting, and say, oh, we like this guy, he looks like he can physically come in and compete here. He retains the ball under possession, or I can make threatening passes. I'm probably just totally butchering all the soccer terms, but I focus on the main thing here, football.
Exactly. Well, let's get into the football. So again, it starts in soccer. It's all film based. You're on a pitch. You're on a field. One of the unique things about Skill Corner is you don't have to be in the stadium. There's no special technology. You're not putting a chip in pads, helmets, cleats. It's all done off of film. And again, that is, as any scout knows, film is it. You can't do this job without film. You're always going to be relying on film. And, one of the great things about the game of football is we've got a lot of historic film too. So as it started to get into the football world, did it start in the NFL? Was it started professionally, or did you guys start looking at college film first to try to start to create some metrics and some standards for what you guys were doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, film is king for sure, and it's very nice that that's all that we're reliant on. No hardware, no cameras, anything like that. And so, yeah, initially it got started with NFL video, and obviously a lot of teams have the Zebra technology with the NGS wearables and the RFID chips on players. So the problem was not aiming to solve scouting, on the pro side, right? And so we were looking and providing NFL data, NFL Skill Corner data to teams, and also taking the college all 22 video and going from there and applying the artificial intelligence, the tracking technology, right, over that video. And so they could say, okay, this is a guy's final season in college, and this is a guy that just entered the draft last year. Here's how they kind of compare up this last season. And I think the focus for us is, while NGS and Skillcorner are quite similar in max speed and accelerations and things like that, they're what we call kind of an oranges to tangerines. They're not exactly the same source, and so we always aim to offer the same source across all leagues, whether that's the NFL, whether that's the UFL, whether that's FBS, FCS football. So that was kind of the goal. And then the other thing is everybody's trying to do projections. They say, okay, well, this wide receiver, we're looking for him to be our new Mike Evans, if you will, or whatever it might be. And so that's the other advantage of providing NFL data, is teams can utilize that data and say, this is what the gold standard, what we're looking for. This is how this player performs on the field, whether that's physically, whether that's from a production lens. And then, we can look at current college guys and say, these are the guys that likely project in a similar fashion to Mike Williams, Drake London, whoever it might be, assuming you're looking for a big body receiver or, insert prototype.
Are we at a point now, Hayden, and this is probably Buck Rogers stuff, but maybe not, where you basically say, I want a Mike Evans. I want this height. I want this speed. I want the guy that can even make these catches. Here's 16, 17 weeks of NFL film. Who's the closest guy? Or here's every game in the Big Ten last year. Who's the guy? Are we to that point where it can do that much legwork for you in advance?
I think it's a loaded question, because I think you can get close to Mike Evans. Certainly you're not going to get a new Mike Evans. I think from a physical component and a production component, we can start to, definitely answer that questions and find prototypes. I mean, obviously there's a complete other side to the scouting evaluation of character and, off the field, is the guy going to fit into our locker room? Is he going to be a true leader? Does he exhibit toughness? But from a sheer, show me, anybody over 6'2", anybody that's over 205 that can run this fast. It's a possession guy that's, insert whatever things matter to you in your scouting process. Yeah, we can certainly start to say, okay, here's the 20 guys that are close to Mike Evans in FBS and FCS football. Maybe this is a good starting place.
What about things that are not as easy to measure from a height, weight, speed kind of standpoint? What if I want to find out who the most accurate quarterback was that was out there, or maybe the receiver with the best hands? That's a lot harder to track, right?
Yeah, certainly. However, our team has done a tremendous job of starting to build out models that are similar to what the NFL and NGS is providing to the team. So things that they have on the pro scouting side. You said, I'll use a receiver that has good hands. So one of the models that has recently been built out is completion probability over expectation. It's CPOE for short. Obviously, it's not solely reliant on the receiver. It's reliant on the quarterback putting the ball in a certain location. And so it's not fully indicative of this is a receiver's ability to catch more passes based on an expectation. However, it can be close, right? If you've got Joe Burrow throwing to, Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, a guy that can put the ball right on the money and a guy that's also got good hands, they're going to light up the CPOE model pretty well. However, we think it's a pretty good indicator, and you can start filtering on separation between defensive back and intended target to say, one, what is a quarterback's CPOE throwing into these tight windows? Like, is he putting the ball in a spot where it can be caught by the receiver? And is the receiver catching it? You can even just look at all attempts by a quarterback. So that was the other thing you asked, like ability to throw into tight coverage windows, and say, for a quarterback, I want to look at all of his passing attempts where the separation between the intended receiver and the closest defender is 3 yards or less, 2 yards or less. Like, it can all be bespoke, and you can start to look at what's the actual completion percentage and kind of go from there. So you can really whittle it down quickly.
But those are numerical models, right? I mean, I'm I'm thinking in terms of if you didn't have the numbers and you just threw the film on, would Skillcorner be able to evaluate those players in that way without having any kind of stats or what have you?
Um, help me understand the question, maybe.
Well, my understanding is that Skillcorner is able to take, again, you don't have to have chips on.
That's right.
Skillcorner can go in and tell you how fast you're running. They can tell you how tired you are. They can tell you all those kinds of things, regardless of whether you've got numbers on how many routes you've run or whatever. I guess I'm trying to get at how much of this can you. We are getting used to more and more of the numbers driven stats that kind of go beyond the game. But are we even advancing past the numbers to where if we've just got film and we've got a device, a technology like Skill Corner, do we even need the numbers anymore?
I think it probably depends on what question you're asking. Well, that would probably be, I think that's the whole reason for the data, right? Is how can we answer some complicated questions, and if you had a specific example or a reason or what's a scouting statement that you're looking for in identifying a player, like, potentially we could get there.
Okay. Here's a different way to ask. Are we to a point now where we can almost have AI go in and tell us, well, I watch Skill Corner, I use Skill Corner, here are the best players that if you need a rush end who's between these weights and this height, here's your guy? Are we to that point? I mean, we're seeing a lot of veteran scouts that are on the street right now who've got years and years of success, and some of them are Bartlett Award winners, and they've been recognized by their peers, and yet they're finding themselves without a job. Are we getting to where that's going to be more and more true as we go forward?
I don't envision a world where Skill Corner fully replaces a scout and can say, this is, because you can't even say, like, okay, this individual's 6'6", he weighs 300 pounds, here's, his shoe size, here's his shin measurements, his arm measurements, like all of these things. Like, not yet, at least. I mean, and that's not the focus of what Skill Corner is doing. Like, we're not aiming to replace the scouts, we're aiming to supplement the scouting process in a lot of ways.
So supplementing the scouting process, I mean, that's been analytics now for, again, getting close, probably about 10 years now, when analytics really started to boom. Hey, it's a supplemental to the process. We've seen teams really swing hard into analytics, and again, some of those pendulums have come back. Some of them are, again, still kind of out there. But again, we've seen it affect scouting staffs as resources ultimately are pushed. And again, that's always going to be, again, that's just the changing nature of the industry. We see a 34-year-old GM who doesn't know anything other than technology. Again, you're going to lean into it more with some of those. The integration now with AI is where it really gets fascinating, because again, you take everything out of, yes, you still need some scouts on the ground, but again, with AI, with historic data that you can now do with Skill Corner, going back and looking at, again, just using the Jaguars as an example. Again, we plug in every Jaguar report that we've had for the last, again, since 2001, I think, since they've basically been a franchise. The AI is going to go through, it's going to have an understanding of how to write a report, it's going to have an understanding of how to talk. Again, it's remarkable reading some of the reports that the AI can put out, Grok or whatever on X. Again, are we getting to a spot where using something like Skill Corner in conjunction with a good AI model becomes another scout, more or less, to where you now have a very objective scouting report based only on numbers? Again, that objective decision making, the objective data. And again, you can now go to your national scouts, your regional scouts, your GM perhaps, and be like, hey, I'm seeing it a little different. But at the end of the day, you can only argue so much with what objective data is coming out of this model with AI historical Skill Corner information.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. I do think that it adds I like the way you put it, of adding an additional objective scout, if you will, to your staff. And I do think that is the value in a lot of ways. You may not agree with the data all the time. Your eyes may tell you something different. I think that the whole point of scouting, though, is, and when you're making your draft selections and everything, is to reduce your risk. Nothing's going to be a silver bullet. There's no surefire. This guy's going to be a star. He's going to win MVPs and take us to the Super Bowl, right? And so you're trying to reduce your risk as much as possible. And if you can have objective, validated data that maybe supports your argument or challenges your argument as a scout, I think those are the pieces of information you're looking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think of one of the pieces, again, when I'm talking to, whether it's agents or my scouting contacts, one of the unique things about, you thinking about the draft from the outside model is, again, most things in the game of football sticking on a bell curve, right? It's going to be somewhere again, you've got your elite players that are on the one end. There's not many of them. Again, that's a low part of the bell curve. You've got your other end guys that shouldn't be in the league. Maybe there's a reason they're in the league, whatever. Again, the majority of the league is sitting there in that, the fat part of the bell curve. Again, as you talk about that model, and again, you run through all those numbers, you get the character, you get all those things, and as scouts, we don't typically like to think about floor, like, the floor of this player. It's like, it's not really something, because again, we want to draft players, we think they're going to be starters, you think about the upside, you think about the best case scenario. But again, from a business standpoint, which again, you talk about newer elements that NFL front offices are using, again, you called it the risk model. You want to eliminate risk. And again, when you can stay on that, north of the 75% part of the bell curve, again, and say you're going to eliminate risk, yeah, they're all human beings. Yes, there's always an element of risk. It's also a violent game. There's always the element. Again, you've got all your different elements where, again, you never completely eliminate risk. But if you can take a bunch of these players that, hey, are high upside, high floor players, again, it can be leave a bad taste in your mouth when you talk about the guys that you're going after. It's like, well, at least he's a high floor player. Well, again, you take a bunch of high floor players and even a couple of those guys get close to their ceiling, like, again, you're probably going to be better off than not, which again brings all those other elements of risk management. And again, treating your player as an asset, not just again, yes, they're a human, but they're an asset. They are somebody that you're investing in, that has risk, that has reward. Again, I mean, players are being traded essentially as stock indexes. So again, it all makes sense. And again, to be able to bring that another piece, and again, in no way would I ever advocate getting rid of even a single scout in favor of an objective scout. But again, I think we're going to a spot where, hey, just like analytics, you can't reject it. You can't reject it. Use it for you. If you're sitting there, again, you catch a group of scouts somewhere on the road and they're like, I don't want to talk to Hayden. He's trying to replace me. What is your pitch to these scouts? Like, hey, guys, like, I don't want to replace you. Again, you guys are essential. You. If you're a scout, use the information. Use Skillcorner in this way. What are you telling them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really important conversation to have, because at the end of the day, we are not trying to replace them. There's so many components to the actual scouting evaluation of a prospect, and what we do at Skillcorner is only a small portion of the pie. We're not covering the whole evaluation, right? These guys are individuals. They have families. The players have families, right? And like, there are so many different components to what they actually do on the football field. Granted, that's the product that in a lot of ways a team is purchasing or selecting in the draft, is what are you going to do when you get to my team, and what is the product that you're going to put on the field for me, and so how can we help find the best players to put the best product on the field. And so I think for us, we're hoping to just supplement the scouting. You have these scouting statements of a guy's got great short area quickness, or he's got tight hips and he doesn't get off the ball very well, or he creates separation at the top of the route, or this guy has great deep ball accuracy. It's like, okay, well, those are all great statements, and when somebody watches the film, they could say, oh yeah, okay, I definitely see what you're saying. Now, can we add in that objective scout, that data, right, and say, now this is also validated by, okay, Skillcorner data based on these numbers and these metrics, is like, Now when you're going to stand on the table for somebody day 3 of the draft, it's like, hey, look, I know this guy's a ball player. I know he can make an impact. This is my evaluation. It's likely happening way before you get to day 3, right? But you know what I mean. It's like when you're standing on the table for your guys, you can bring this into that conversation. So I think hopefully it makes us better scouts as well, right?
The teams that are best using Skill Corner, Hayden, how are they using it?
In a variety of different ways. I think the biggest 2 components are for discovery. They're saying, okay, who have we maybe missed in the process? We've got our advanced scouts, and they do a nice job of looking at junior film and data, and going out and looking at guys before their senior year, and they're going to get some information on players. However, they start playing, their senior year, and it's like, oh, we haven't looked at this guy, or this guy's having an incredible season out at Montana State. Like, maybe we should go get eyes on him again. It's like more of that discovery of, oh, okay, we haven't heard about this guy. We didn't know about him in a lot of ways. The blue bloods of college football, they're going to have everybody there. They're going to know about them. And so it's really making sure you're doing your due diligence and mining prospects. And then I think the second piece is really just more of a validation tool in a lot of ways of saying, okay, a validation of we like this guy from a scouting department. You have different models. Some teams will allow their scouts to see the Skill Corner data. Some teams will not, and you kind of want to create that because they don't want it to influence the scouting evaluation of, oh, well, this guy has a max speed of 20 and a half miles an hour. And it's like, oh yeah, he is a lot faster than I thought he might be, and so you don't want it to skew that. But then, when you get together later in the process and say, okay, this actually matches what we're seeing. And then you've also got projection models as well. It's interesting, the projection in college, like when you're looking at college players and even coming out of high school, you're trying to project 2 to 3 years down the road. And so floor to ceiling is a bit different. When you're an NFL team, you're looking at more of a polished player in a lot of ways. Let's call 75% of your bell curve is at least polished, right? They've hit puberty, they've shown you who they're going to be, and it's our job to believe them, right? And so these projection models of can he project into this based on the information that we have. So does that answer your question, Neil?
Yeah, I think so. Now, you're working on the college and the pro level right now, Hayden. I think there's a time when we thought, well, the college is college, but the NFL is really where it's at as far as play design and all those kind of things. But in the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen much more progressive offenses, and we're starting to see that seep upward into the NFL. Generally speaking, do you find that colleges are more progressive in their use of Skill Corner and maybe acceptance of it than NFL teams, or is there no way to really compare those two?
It's a good question. I think the use cases are a bit different. On the college side, the use of Skill Corner data is very similar to NFL pro scouting, and so they're using it as, okay, we can at least look at apples to apples competition, and you can say, okay, this is how these individuals are playing against one another. I would say that the NFL is so much more robust than a vast majority of college football in terms of understanding of analytics, investment in analytics. Like, there's a lot of education that is currently happening and needs to continue to happen on the college side, as well as best use cases. How can we actually use this data in a meaningful way to best build out our roster? Because in a lot of ways, the turnover on a college roster is far more significant than what you're seeing on an NFL roster as well. And so those guys have to be able to be agile and adapt to say, okay, we need to go to the portal to replace the 10 guys that we also lost. 10's a shy number. It's probably more towards 20, even 30 in some schools.
So, and that's kind of where I want to go with this, Hayden. Let's say I'm a team and I really need help in the portal in finding the player. I need a outside linebacker, an outside receiver, and maybe a center. How are teams using Skill Corner to kind of help vet those players and make sure they're not signing the wrong guys?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I think we have an integration partnership right now with True Media that allows teams a front-end tool to go in and type players' names in, to search them out, to compare we've got filters on there for guys that are currently in the transfer portal and say, okay, show me all the outside linebackers that are in here. Give me my height weight filters. I want a guy that's at least 6'2" and at least 230 pounds, and he played X amount of snaps last year, and here's some skill corner data on him as well, along with some box score data, and say, okay, here's the 15 guys that when I pare it down this way, these are the guys that I want to go after. And so we've got a nice integration partnership with them that's been fantastic. They've been great partners to us. The other thing is we're also partnering with the sports analytics groups on campus, and so they're almost like the de facto like NFL analytics staffs and departments. And so in a lot of ways, they're able to take data and say, okay, we can start to build out these projection models or risk modeling, and say, this is in a variety of ways. I don't know how much I'm allowed to share, but it's like even even stuff on what's the value of a quarterback, of a top tier quarterback in FBS Power 5. We don't have very good data that's shared amongst all of the colleges of, hey, we're paying our guy 1.5 million, we're paying our guy 2.7 or whatever it is, and then you've got other teams that are saying, oh, well, we're only paying our guy 800,000. Maybe the value is more, and so what is the value? And you've got these analytics groups on campus that are a lot smarter than I am, math guys, and they're able to say, okay, these are what top performing quarterbacks are doing, and then this is the monetary value of that, because you also have what's the monetary value of an additional win for a school. For an FBS school, they're looking at one additional win brings them anywhere from about $1.5 to $3 million each year, and that's ticket sales, that's admissions to school, that's fundraising, that's booster donations, a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's again that's where you start to get into the fascination of, yes, it's a football decision. Like Skill Corner is there for the football decisions, but football is a business. Again, it's anybody that wants to disagree at the college level, football is a business. Like that is where it's going. It's changing to where, like, hey, you may need that data. You may need to walk into a meeting with an AD or a president, be like, hey, this, if we can get this kid an extra $500,000, it's going to be worth $3.5 million. Again, potentially a playoff spot, potentially a national champion. Again, all those things, like the numbers actually move. And again, in the NFL, that has kind of been the case from an analytics standpoint with the ownership group. Again, those were you look at the ownership groups that have really pushed and embraced the analytics. That's where it starts. Yeah, they probably ended up hiring a GM that was savvy to it, that was open to it. But again, again, Jacksonville, the Cons, again, grew up in soccer. They are analytics. They are numbers people. And again, Arthur Blank for the Falcons, he, again, an accountant, a CPA, understands the numbers. So again, you see where that connection is. Yes, football decision over here, but as everything continues to get poured into one bucket and gleaned out and filtered the right way, it can help you when used correctly, no matter where you are using this data at, which is again the value of it. And again, because the Jaguars are in the news with James, again, it's the idea of, hey, do I either want all the data and I can choose to use it, or we're going to leave some data on the table by not going to X, Y, and Z events a la Jacksonville and what the Rams have done a little bit. So, again, no wrong way to do it. Again, the Jaguars got maybe the best player in the draft. The Rams won the best draft award. Again, and they do things differently. So, again, it's about doing it the right way for you, making good decisions, and letting it all, come down the pipeline with the good people. Yeah, the head coach probably matters. The coordinators matter. The quarterback matters. Again, all the rest of those pieces are going to just help everybody else play at their best. Hayden, talking specifically about Skill Corner now this year, were there anybody that you looked at from a data metric standpoint as you were watching day 1, day 2, day 3 of the draft, where it's like, hey, I'm not surprised this guy slid a little bit. Everybody was high on him. They were high early. The data, the metrics, Skill Corner came back, and we're like, yeah, Skill Corner didn't like him as much. Or on the other end, it's like, again, this guy was kind of a fringe guy, but Skill Corner loved him. Again, all our metrics. Were there any guys like that in this year's draft?
It's a good question. I think in a lot of ways, like, yeah, there are definitely some players that slid that you weren't overly surprised just based on some of the skill corner stuff. However, like, as a football fanatic, I'm not shying away from all the character evaluations, all the medical stuff that's coming out. It's like, oh, okay, well, this guy looked really good in the skill corner data. Like, why is he sliding? It's like, oh, well, he had hip surgery, or he had an ACL, in his junior year, and there's still some concerns on that as well. And so, again, like, we're just a piece of the pie. We're not the whole pie. And so it's like, okay, Abdul Carter, freak. No surprise. Travis Hunter, phenomenal player. Cam Ward, like, looks really good in the skill corner data. Your top picks, no surprises there as well. And so I think that was really fun to watch in a lot of ways. And I think even too, like, the guys that aren't performing in combines, guys like that aren't running the 40-yard dash, guy like Tet McMillan that does. I actually think that I used that example in our ITL award show at the combine. Was, hey, Tet's, if he doesn't run, which I'm not saying, maybe he will, maybe he won't, like, maybe we can project his 40-yard dash to be in the low 4 or 5 range. And so when a guy doesn't run, you have skill corner data on him to say, okay, from a physical standpoint, we can still have some answers here.
Hayden, what would Skill Corner have said, or what did it say about a quarterback that came out of Colorado that wound up going third day? That some people
Oh,
were expecting to go a little higher. I mean, do you have any? Can you inform us at all on kind of what the objective information said about it? Analysis said about it.
Yeah, it's a good question. Skill corner wise, I mean, the player himself actually looked pretty good comparatively, especially when benchmarked against quarterbacks that guys like Joe Burrow, guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like Tua Tagovailoa, or other guys that have performed well or translated well to the league. And you look at, okay, where were they at when they were coming out of college? Whereas Shador look at, where does he benchmark coming out of college, just from a physical, in-game speed, acceleration, change of direction ability, and then even other things like completions in tight coverage windows, completions against expectation, or throwing while under pressure and making good decisions. And I think that the skill corner data was friendly to this individual, and I don't know that it was the data that led to the fall. We'll just put it that way.
see, Mel Kiper was right. He knew all
Hey, somebody
along.
had to say it, yeah.
Again, anybody that seriously follows scouting, I think, understands the Shadir Sanders situation. So again, not surprising. It's always good to hear players. Again, the numbers, the comparisons you made. Again, those were all guys that again, Burrow was a different one because he was such a riser that last year. Again, I remember the conversations we had in Atlanta. How did we have this spring grade on him to where he is again to our draft grade? And again, guys like Baker, again, he had some questions. Again, we haven't even brought up a Johnny Manziel, and again, what a metrics for him would look like. But again, always goes back to all that other stuff matters. It's a piece of the puzzle. And again, sometimes the everything else that a scout's going to be doing is going to tell you, like, hey, yeah, the numbers, skill corner may say this player could hit this ceiling. I'm not betting on that. Again, you bring in the risk management and all that kind of stuff. And I'd imagine you have to be careful maybe talking about a few of these players. You don't want to make anybody mad. Again, some
Right,
of your clients probably took some of these players. And so let's flip it over to the college side.
Okay.
Again, it's an interesting you brought it. Are you doing so power 4, power 5, obviously, group of 5, FCS? How far through, say, 2024 fall film has Skill Corner gotten to where if a team all of a sudden said, hey, I don't care about NFS and Blesto, I'm going to use Skill Corner's metrics to identify my prospects for this fall?
Yep.
How wide reaching is Skill Corner in terms of getting me my list of prospects before my scouts go on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. 24 is already done. We can get you anything from Power 4 to Group of 5, Group of 6, down to FCS. No non-D1 at this time. it's just more challenging in a lot of ways. No high school, no non D1, so there's a lot of barriers as we kind of mentioned at the start. No hardware on players, no cameras being installed. Video quality starts to taper off. There's a multitude of factors. Accurate rosters and player numbers. Are guys actually wearing the proper jersey when they're out there, right?
If a GM called you, they're using Skill Corner and said, "Hey, Wisconsin Whitewater, they have traditional power. They've got guys almost every year." Said, "Here's access to 10 2024 Whitewater games." What's the turnaround time? Like, what does it take? Is it like, hey, somebody's sitting down, like, again, sticking a pin on a player every single, again, going back to the jersey and finding them, and again, having a still camera that a student assistant or injured players running up in the press box? Like, what does that process look like? What's the turnaround for something like Skill Corner?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think first step would obviously have to be investigation of the video. Can we actually, if there's a lot of snow on the field, if there's up in Wisconsin, right, you're probably going to get some weather factors which inhibit ability to track the players, because if the human eye has a tough time with seeing it, so is the computer, so is the machine. Just an investigation, but if all things are good, it's about 2 hours for us to turn around a game. So very, very quick.
Oh, wow. For one game, about 2 hours. Wow. So you could do, again, you could easily be turning around a roster if a team was asking for it in a couple days to a week, and depending on the size of the team, you may get them knocked out in a day.
That's right.
It's fantastic.
Assuming everything's peachy and wonderful, which on the tech side isn't always the case, but exactly. We would totally try to do something if that request came through.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The fun question now, again, you think about the historicals, I don't know if I've ever heard an actual NFL scout say generational talent. Again, that's something that gets bandied about. We've got generational talents every year, but with something like Skill Corner and using old film, again, you go back and get Dion, you go back and get, some of the all-time greats, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton's, Dan Marino's, and you start putting Skill Corner metrics on them, you link that with AI and now AI projection. When are we going to get an all-time, all NFL team AI rendered game where we can accurately match up Deion Sanders against, we saw Deion versus Jerry, but, go against, the best left tackles against LT, and again, do that in a really fun, completely AI Pro Bowl with brought to you by Skill Corner.
I would love to do that. In a lot of ways, probably far away from that, from Skill Corner doing that. Just in terms of how far back we actually go and ability to do some of those things. It sounds like a really fun task that I'll put to the team. We'll see what we can do. But in a lot of ways, we've only got models that describe what's happening on the field, not actually going back for simulation purposes. Eventually down the line, that would be fantastic.
I mean, at this point, Hayden, how far back could you go? I guess where the technology red lines as far as what you could even try to convert to digital so you could use it. I mean, I figure
early
the old
2000s.
Early 2000s? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of, we've done some good investigation. It's like, okay, we could probably go back to, I won't put a number on it, but I'll just say it's in the 0-somethings, early 2000s.
And that's taking it off the Betamax and putting in and turning it into digital, and then be able to kind of evaluate it that way.
Yeah, it's just exactly using that video footage.
Okay.
So
Good.
I just
I hope that one day you can do Bobby Lane. Hope one day you can do.
Just send me your requests. I'll make sure that they're known. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to go back to Old Navy practice film, and if we can get some of that and see how Neil would project against.
That's all been burned. I'm sorry, it's all been destroyed. Nice try, Rodrik.
Yeah, no,
I guess I do want to ask you guys, as two individuals that have a really good pulse on scouting and the industry in a lot of ways, what are your thoughts on the openness to data and scouts utilizing the data from your perspective? I mean, obviously both have very unique experiences as well.
I think typically it skews younger. I think that's probably logical. I think especially on the pro side, there's still going to be a number of scouts out there that are maybe a little more old school, maybe a little more threatened by it. I think, however, we're starting to see the composition of every scouting department to skew more younger and to skew younger, and also to be more analytics driven, and also I would add have a lot more executive level parts there, and I think that's going to kind of vary by the team and the background. And we don't have, whereas even as recently as maybe 5 or 6 years ago, everything was the New England model, and now with New England kind of falling from prominence, I don't think we have one blueprint, one template that we're seeing. Although we've seen the Rams have success in the draft, and they freely admit that they kind of changed things after COVID went through, and they were restricted in how they could send guys out, and that really made an impact on them. And they've successfully been able to integrate that. We're seeing a lot of those people going to Jacksonville. If Jacksonville has success after the Rams have, then wow, Hayden, I've got good news for you, buddy. I mean, I think more and more people are going to be tuned into the digital side of this, and for better or for worse, less on the human side of it. So that's my 2 cents. Rodrik, I'll defer to you on your take.
Yeah,
on it.
no, I think that's again, you kind of hit it with older and younger, but I think even more beyond that, it's as you said, that executive level. Again, this is, I think a lot of people, and I think rightly in some ways, you can trim some fat with Skill Corner. You are getting a good objective scout that can do a lot of film work, and again, the job of a scout changes, which means if you are somebody that is going to be lower level, the relationships, these networking, the source development, all that stuff matters even more, because that becomes a bigger piece of your pie that you're going to have to uncover. Because again, Skill Corner is really good, and it's ultimately hard to argue with it. And again, you get into a front office, and again, your lower level scouts, again, you may be the fat that gets trimmed, whether you're a quote unquote good scout or not. Once you get up, again, you get to your directors, you get to the more people that are going to be using this data, your job is different. So you probably embrace it a little bit more quickly than the lower level, because again, as you said, there are scouting departments that are sharing it, making it widely known, and there are maybe teams that, yeah, this is only for this level and above, and our area scouts don't ever see it. And again, that is where rightly so, you get frustrated with it, because again, you don't know what you're battling with, and battling against, what are you competing against, and becomes again, for some people it becomes a reason to think about a college GM job, and for some it becomes motivation to understand it, embrace it, and work a little bit harder where they're at. So it's again, like analytics was 10 years ago, again, you're going to get two different camps, and again, if you begrudgingly accept it or embrace it, again, that may ultimately show you where your job's going to be at in the next few years. And again, it's not going away. I think all three of us would agree with that. It's not going anywhere. Again, whether a team quickly embraces it or not, that's going to be up for 32 teams to decide. But again, it's certainly not going anywhere. So it's a good question. And Hayden, you're probably not out there posting every Skill Corner, evaluation, analysis meeting you're having, but are you putting some stuff out there? I know you're on X. I believe you're at Hayden Schuh, SCHUH, Hayden Schuh on X. Is there anywhere else? Skillcorner.com, I believe, is a website. Where can people learn more, find out more, and get in touch potentially?
Yeah, skillcorner.com is a great place to look. Also, my LinkedIn as well, same name, Hayden, SCHUH. That's a great place to connect. Yeah, honestly.
Well, if anyone wants to see Hayden's complete presentation at our seminar, it's on the ITO webpage, prominently out there. And I would encourage you to check it out, because Hayden really digs into the numbers. He's got lots to talk about, lots to add. He talks about Ted McMillan, obviously, and it's a really riveting presentation, I should say. And I think
performance was spot on too, Neil.
Yeah. I didn't run the 40, but that's
that's all.
Happy to do bespoke things as well if anybody's out there and wants, hey, I'm with this team, looking at, this is our roster, and we look at these guys, and these are the decisions we made. Like, Can you give me a post-mortem on this as well, or whatever it might be? Or we're looking at next year's guys already. How do they project, or what are some early thoughts on them? So, yeah, I know that this cast reaches a wide net, and so happy to do that as well.
Yeah.
We're excited to see how Skill Corner will continue to improve and grow and meet the needs of teams as things go forward. Hayden, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us this week, man.
Yeah, thank you both so much for having me. It's good to see you guys.
Yep. Thanks, Aiden. Agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file folder storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.